Okay, I've got a little bit of backlog of videos I want to make. This is going to be a video on the levelized cost of hydrogen, not the levelized cost of electricity. And I suppose I'm going to skip to the summary page, which we're going to kind of adjust. Okay, hydrogen is a alternative way to create fuel for transport, for forklifts, for other things. And the question, at least the question I was asked, is can you compute this levelized cost of hydrogen? Now, let me just begin by saying something about the levelized cost of electricity. I think this whole levelized cost of electricity is becoming very popular for a couple of reasons. People seem to know how much money they pay in terms of euro per kilowatt hour, euro per megawatt hour, Australian dollars per cents per kilowatt hour. They know how much they pay in their electric bill. And then you see in the news, you go in the news and you say, oh, in Abu Dhabi, they made a solar project for, what is it, less than 1.5 US cents per kilowatt hour. We don't know if it's in real terms, we don't know if it's in nominal terms, but that's a very popular. It's a number. It's a number that you can compare things with. That's what we want to do with this one. Now, to get, in this case, I'm doing a case study for my friend Mario, who I'm going to tell you a little bit about. I'm going to have some stories about various people in this video. Maybe it'll drag on a little bit long, but he said he's going to convert or he's going to make a suggestion to convert garbage trucks to hydrogen. Okay. Now, in order to get these garbage trucks to work on hydrogen, we have to start at the beginning. You have to create something called an electrolyzer. I didn't know what that was before. And when you create this electrolyzer, it uses a lot of electricity. Electricity is its biggest cost. It uses, I think, if you compare the electricity usage to the overall cost, it would be more electricity than an aluminum smelter. It's very electricity intensive. But you're not finished here. Then you've got to put it into this thing, and we've got to do some compression and storage here. And that costs some money. And that has some operating costs. And then you've got to put it into a dispenser. And once you put it into a dispenser, you put it into the truck. Now that when you put it into the truck, it's not free. At the end of the day, I would like to see what's the overall cost in terms of either a diesel price or a percent increase or decrease, hopefully. Well, it's probably going to be an increase right now. What's the overall cost of this whole process? Not just the cost of the electrolyzer, excuse me, which gives you a little bit of a cost per kg, which then you've got to spend money of this on, and then you've got to see how efficient this kind of truck is compared to a regular old conventional truck. Okay? Now, so that's what I'm going to explain to you. But in the process of explaining this, I'm going to talk about shitty models. Sorry to use that phrase. My friend Pascal used bullshit in court and got it on his Zoom call and got in trouble for that. Okay, so I should be careful. This is not a courtroom. This is not anything all that official. Okay, and here's kind of the story of what happened. First of all, well, I'm going to show you some other studies I've found while I've been looking at this. Okay, and I'm going to start at the beginning. About a year and a half ago, I don't know, a friend of mine in Denmark, Frederick, told me, you know, can you do I think he's a professor somewhere. He said, can you do a levelized cost of hydrogen for me? okay? And then I think he was the one who gave me a bunch of data on these electrolyzers, and I had no clue what it is. It's got kilograms, it's got kilowatt hours. What are we talking about? Kilograms, kilowatt hours, liters? It's got some stuff in there. I'm used to the kilowatt hours. I can even do a battery LCOE, but what is all this other stuff? Okay, so he sent me that, and then when he sent me that, he sent me this nice little formula somewhere. He said, can't you just apply this formula? And basically, it's fixed costs and variable costs. Okay, really, this is feedstock is going to be the electricity. OPEX, there's going to be, other than the electricity and the water, there's going to be some fixed OPEX, fixed CAPEX. It depends a little bit on if you use this thing to its full potential. If you have 100% or 70, 97%, which is the availability. And you don't need a formula like this. I'm going to try to show you. That's not that complicated a formula. It's just a present value formula. It's taking the present value of the costs divided by the present value of the production. Okay, but that doesn't really get you to the end, which is how much more or less does it cost. And when we'll do this, we can either include the additional truck cost, which I think we probably should, and we can even say, I don't want to include this dispenser cost because, you know, if you go to a service station or something, well, you don't have to pay extra. You really do. Part of the diesel price is this retail cost. So how should we include all of this stuff? Okay. And then I looked up this Stanford paper. Oh, God. And this Stanford paper for computing the levelized cost. Oh, my God. This is what they had. This is my objection to all of this. What we really want to do is I am going to explain in this video, by the time I get to it one day here, how when you do this levelized cost business, the formulas are very, very simple. It's the data that's the problem. It's figuring out what kind of capital cost you have and operating cost. And for that, I'm going to show you how to make a kind of some little tricks on making a nice presentation on a database so we can compare different costs and see what people think the cost of this electrolyzer is, this stuff is, the dispenser, how fast you can dispense it, and these sorts of issues. By the way, this is not finished, the thing. I'm going to finish it with making this video. And then just to show you how crazy the world is. So this is this, where's this Stanford paper? In this Stanford paper, they had some costs, and I used my read PDF that I'm not going to show you how to do right now again for the blah, blah, blah time. Okay, here's the cost. They have a cost per kW. Now, this is fascinating, really, for me. kW is the input. It's like for a natural gas plant. You have something called a heat rate. That's the BTU per kW. You don't measure a gas plant in BTUs. You could, but you don't. You measure them in the output, which is kW or kWh. We really need to measure all this stuff in kilograms. And we've got to do a little bit of conversion to get to kilograms. Now, the next thing I looked at, here's some other data. Efficiency of a regular truck and else. So it's, you can find a whole lot. Here's the cost of rubbish. Okay, and here, so one of the other things we found is this. Okay, and this, my friend Mike Flynn, wonderful. He's really, really good. Please, okay. And then he found this thing and said, "Oh, look this NREL, National Renewable NREL." Okay, they did this study, and they have some nice pictures. And this is what you see as well. You see these pictures. Oh, here's the cost per kilogram. What does that mean? Does that mean you save money by buying this, but by using this in transportation or not? Okay, and they have some different electrolyzer plants, I guess. I don't know what this forecourt is. I should read it, I suppose. I just look at the numbers, and then they have some diagrams of the hydrogen that you typically see. Then they have some real data. Finally, they have some data, but only on the electrolyzers. And they have things, they don't have the life of the project. You desperately need the life when you're going to spread the capital costs out. But they have some KW and some KG, so you can compute some efficiencies. They have the efficiency actually down here. And they have some other stuff, so that's okay. But again, what they do, and then they put this plant capacity in, and then they put some nice graphs in, and then they suddenly put this storage thing without any background at all. There's no data here for the storage, which is really sad. And then they, I don't know what that is. Good, nice graph. Oh, a tornado diagram. And then they put some things in, but they don't show you at the end. That's kind of good, but they don't show you what's driving this cost. What we're going to do, if you stay with this video, is we're going to say, okay, what happens if I start using, I'm going to make a database using all these costs, and I've got a database of some different dispensers and some different estimates of the cost and the efficiency of all this storage and compression and dispensers, and then I've got different estimates of what a conventional truck looks like, and most importantly, what the efficiency of the diesel is. And I'm going to repeat myself again and again and again. If you can get this data, don't be afraid of making a simple model, and don't make it absurdly ridiculous and complicated. What we're going to do is, because I'm not an engineer, we're going to work through this now. For me, when I work through something like this, and when I say, okay, I want to convert, for example, here, the cost per the liters per 100 kilometers to the miles per gallon. And in the old days, that would have been a pain. And now you go, and obviously, we don't need to know the time, which I can't ever get right. You put liters to a gallon, and then you get the things. And then when you do this, please, please, please remember that this 1 liter, that's on the bottom, and 0.26 gallons is on the top. And then when you make your little thing and you work through, all this is working through a whole bunch of conversions from, let's get down to the electrolyzer. We need how many liters per kilogram, how much it costs for the water per liter. We need on the electricity, how much, what's our kilowatt hour per kilogram. We can convert this and state it, and we should put the time units in too. Oh my gosh, excuse me. I do not have any kind of virus. Don't worry, and you can't get that from the video anyway, I don't think. Okay, now, and by the way, once we'll do this, it's good as a kind of preview. At the end of the day, you've just got to put all the costs together, and at the end you get the NPV. This kind of might be a little bit of a low discount rate. Let's use a 5% discount rate. In nominal terms, that's too well. In nominal terms, maybe okay. In real terms, that's a little too low. And then you can put your annuity factor, and then you can put your required level revenues, and then you can convert the required level revenues to whatever you want. You can convert them to what is this in terms of, for a conventional truck, the diesel price per liter. And that, if you would look in these kind of things and try to find any of this, you can't. You can find all these, I love these diagrams. You can find all these waterfall charts and everything else. Now, my friend Mario wanted me to do this real case. And since he's not paying for me, he never has, but he's the greatest. He's such a dreamer. I love it. He has these fantastic ideas. But he hired this private equity guy. Oh, no, it's going to be a private equity guy. He must be smart. Sorry to you in private equity if you're watching this, if you're in what, you're not, by the way, if you're in that. And then he gave me this file. Maybe I can find it here. He gave me this file that they made, and this is such a bad model. It really deserves a little bit of discussion. It's got so many things what not to do. Now you open this, and the very first thing you do is you get an income statement with a bunch of blanks here. How criminal is that? Not using the same formula. And then there are these little arrows here. And this person who did this apparently said, I went to university and I really am a good modeler and blah, blah, blah. That's what he told my friend Mario. And then there are a bunch of blanks and there's an income statement. And Mario said, well, how much of a deficit do we have compared to the normal truck? This doesn't tell me anything about anything. And then just some other criminal behavior. How could you possibly use merge cells in the top? So then you go down and you suddenly hit a merge and it moves you over and you can never use the whole column or anything to do anything. And then let's look at something else. So that was the output. This is the very end. It's kind of there, the balance sheet, but it's never, whatever, unless it's a bank or something, you're never driving it with, and then it's got inputs and levers. Okay, very nice. It has some investment. I have no idea what in the hell this investment means. And then, of course, some more merge cells. Model inputs, truck costs, truck cell, select. Oh, look, we can go down and select different ones. What good is this? What good is this if you don't put titles on this? It has no meaning whatsoever. And then he's got some refueler cost and electrolyzer cost. But look at this. Suddenly, then in the middle of the inputs, we have this. And these are inputs, but they're not colored. And we could, of course, oh God, I can't even do this. I was going to use the waste your time with the generic macros to color this and at least get them somewhere. And then suddenly some of these come from other places, and then we go down and, okay, look at this one. Refueler residual. God knows why we need this. I suppose because the life of one segment of the plant, for example, the life of the trucks is different than the life of the electrolyzers. So if you put the truck cost in, you really have to put a replacement truck cost in. Or if the life of a dispenser is different than the other one, you have to put that in one in. But how could you possibly do this nested if? Such a crime. And then to take it from different sheets and to try to follow any of this, such a crime. And then we have something that resembles a data table and another crime, H lookup. By the way, you never need to use match index again because there's a new H lookup, X lookup in Excel that somebody told me, and that you can put the lookup array and you can put a match model. I mean, you can put a 0 in, and so I'm going to experiment with this a little more, but I don't think so. And then they've suddenly got the electrolyzer cost, 3 scenarios that are totally undefined. Cost per kW, I know that that's what people use, and then they have some retrofit cost and an amortization period of different lengths and what have you. Some reasonable data, perhaps, but a lot of just shit. Sorry about that. And then some overhead costs and residual factors, okay. And then the hydrogen cost of goods sold, that's electricity, okay. And instead of doing all this, putting the electricity efficiency in, it's blah, blah, blah. Is that enough complaining about a model? Come on. That's a good example of what not to do. So that was half my objective of making this video. I got so pissed off when I got this model. Go, come on, is this what they teach you? All right, so I'm going to close this, thankfully. And then there's another model that my friend Mike found from the DOE model. I didn't bother to look at that. I probably would start moaning about that one too. Okay, now what we're going to do here is really start with the real drivers. And what we want to do is to be able to change the drivers. What's the cost? What's the capital cost of this electrolyzer? What's the efficiency? What's the cost of the electricity that goes into this? And once we start changing some of this, hopefully I have this one so I can change it. And again, you know, my big complaint is when you do things like this, you need to reset them. But I've got a little bit of a different idea on how to reset most of the factors in this model. This is all wrong, of course, but we'll fix this. Okay, and then we have to see what our costs are, how much we use this, what our life is compared to the life of the trucks, blah, blah, blah. Once we're finished, we'll get all the CapEx and we'll put the same sort of things in for this and this and this. Now, I'm going to try something that I've never tried before, so I'll probably screw it up. So my friend, which I couldn't really call him my friend, Frederick from Denmark, gave me some costs. There were some costs that I got from Mario. There were some costs for other things. And what I want to do here, really, is I would like to make a little thing here so we could have kind of a base case that we try. So maybe this is maybe this one is our base case. Okay, and maybe I'm going to watch me mess up. Okay, this is the one Mario kind of wanted me to use. Okay, and I'll call this the case. And then these costs, some of these estimates were like for future costs, and I'm going to sort these things out, and let me make sure I can sort them out. So what I'm trying in the process of trying to do now, I just copied a bunch of this stuff. Okay, and let's first sort this out. So let's go to data and sort. Okay, and then let's use the options and sort from the right to left, and we'll sort on row number 2. Is that okay? And we'll sort by row 2. And we'll go. Okay, and then we have some of these different sources. Okay, and I wonder if I should even. I'm sorry. If you go over here, by the way, if you click on these 2 lines, and then you press Control X, and then you go here, and you press Shift Control Plus, what it does is it kind of, whatever, it moves them without doing that. Okay? And now, what I want to do is to be able to put Mario number 1 in here. Well, I'll change Mario number 1 to base case. And I want to have a little tool so I can look at what the efficiency is. And Mario said the efficiency is 70. All these other people said the efficiency was much better. In other words, it's kWh per kg. Kg is the output. If you use blah 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 blah, if you use more kWh, it's less efficient. And what I want to do is over here, when we show this efficiency, I want to grab something from the database. Wouldn't that be cool? And then you can either put a whole new scenario. You can pick a different whole electrolyzer, a whole different electrolyzer scenario, whatever, estimate. or whatever, yes, cost estimate from a provider. But then you can directly compare it with different ones. Okay, and we can see the ones, and maybe we should even, we can even right here put on some of these things, right after the base case, maybe I can put an average and a median. Okay, and I suppose I could have included the base case or not. Let's just put average. Okay, that's the average capacity we have, and then oops, I always do that. Oops, and then the median. Okay, and it looks like I have some difficulties in my house. I don't really have a house in my flats. Okay, and then we can get them from all of them, all right? And I think we better be careful. Oh, that's all right. And then we can do the same thing for these. Okay, and then we can, oops. Oh, okay, time to pause. Okay, now let's get it better. Now let's get it better. The first thing we can do is if we're going to make a drop-down box. And in our drop-down box, I'm going to have, just like I always do, or you always do, a scenario number. That's our very first 101 kind of rule. And the scenario number 1 will be the base case. And if it's 2, it'll be the next case. And with the scenario number, we're going to use the index, and we're going to have a drop-down box. But if we have a drop-down box, we better here, let's select this whole thing and then press Alt-I-S. Oh no! What? Excuse me. Oh. Okay, and we have 35 different potential plants. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm going. So then let's go down here somewhere. Okay, and put 1 and put columns and put 35. Okay, and then let's take this area and use the transpose function. And the reason I'm doing this, the reason I'm using the transpose function is because the drop-down box only works when it goes down and not across. And then we can make another little title. We better do it like this. Okay, and now we can make our drop-down box. Now this is, we're gonna make a whole, I'm very afraid of this one because we gotta be really, really careful with this one. And Mike told me, put it in if you press the Alt and somehow it fits it into a cell, it fits it in there. I don't know. Did that? Maybe. And he said you could do it with 2, so it was trying to fit. If you hold the alternate key down, oh, what a waste. What a damn, Okay, so I'm gonna make it go a little bit wider. I didn't do what Mike told me to do. Okay, and then we go to a different sheet, of course, but the same sheet, blah, blah, blah. And we use the final one. Okay, so now what the objective is to make sure that we can just kind of take any one and go around it. Okay, and let's go back to this thing. Okay, and then we can get our index function. Okay, and if you really want to be careful. I suppose you can, I don't know why they even have this thing. If you put 50, something that's more than our 35, then it'll show all of them. I don't know why maybe you don't like to limit them all. So what we can do is eventually, no, not eventually, what we can do is copy this and put this somewhere. We could put it kind of up here, okay, for our electrolyzer. But then the nicer part of this, perhaps I should put it like this, is we can kind of put this, and I don't know how it's going to be really arranged. We can put this up here for each one of them. So we can select kind of our master case, and then we can put item by item, we can start changing these ones and compare what our costs look like compared to the average, compared to the median. So we can put our average in, and then we can put our median in, and we can kind of just really say, okay, what's going on for the levelized cost of electricity when we change all of this? Maybe this was just an idea in my head. Maybe it's kind of a stupid one. Now, in order to do it in both places, either kind of change the master or the other one, the first thing is I'm going to put index here. And then we'll just use a standard kind of index and get the whole thing across, and then we'll get our scenario number. Okay, and then we can kind of copy this all the way down. I'm reluctant to, I'm not even going to have you watch that. That's just too much of a waste of time. But then we can have our applied. Okay, this time, and this time we're just a minute. So, I'm glad I'm doing this with you, because I got some of the thoughts in my head totally wrong, of course, even though it's relatively simple. So what we can do here is take anything from our database, okay, all right, and then it puts this here. But if we want to go back to the base case and then only take this one out of the database, what I can do is put another one here. Now, when I do this, let me do this right. If you hold the alternate key down and kind of paste it, you can get it going into exactly the same thing. And then we can just copy it down, and hopefully that's going to be wide enough to get this stuff. Okay, yeah, I wonder if I push it a little bit this way. Nope, once you picked it, you're finished. Okay, but on this one, then I can, up here, it's going to just give me another code number. So if I wanted to put this one up to the base case, but then this one, I'm going to put a little format control. Now the pain is going to be that I have to put it back here, and I believe I can do that a little bit easier. I'll put it right here. We'll put so, all right, so in this one, if I wanted to compare this to the average, okay, then I can put up here in my applied, I can put my index function, okay, and then after you put the index function, you can go to this one. Maybe this is all kind of a bunch of shit, but then we can keep it, all the rest of these here. Well, let's yeah, there wasn't much. Oh yeah, there was. Okay, what if we do this one? Okay, and then we can compare the various factors, and this thing will go on to the on item by item in that summary page. Okay, and now the final thing is, when we do this one, if we would click it or put the reset base case in it, what we want to do is put these all back to the level of 1. And that's really easy. We just put a range around this and just make them all equal to 1. And I guess in our macro, we can kind of take a couple of these things out that aren't used, but that's going to be easy. This is just going to be kind of we can put this we can make some kind of range name then index code or something. Okay, and that's the way, finally, we can get this. Now, instead of doing this, it's just going to be too boring. If I do this one, and then we right click, and we'll have to kind of put number 8 here, and then I'm sure there's probably a way to do this better. Let me see. Okay, so let's just copy them down, and we'll just have to put 9, and it's kind of a pain, but not that much, is it really? Oops, this time I'm in 10. Okay, enough. I'll stop doing that one. And then in this one, we better make this our scenario number. Now I'm really so embarrassed that I control F3, right? Function control F3. And oh, what's all this crap I have? Oh no, I have it from that other shit model. That's what I started with. Oh, it's got all these silly things in. Well, at least what we can do is if you've got a bunch of references, you can delete them. And then if you've got these ones in here, you can delete them. I guess these are okay. Okay. All right. Enough of that. And we call this our index code. So let's just right click on this one and go to assign macro and make a new one and call it range index code dot value. Somebody asked, why do you have to put dot value? And I don't know it, but it works a lot better. Did I put number or num? I think I put number. Okay, and that's all we do, and that will change them all back if I called this scenario number. I did. Okay, so let's put our Mario 3, and then everything is changed to Mario 3, including some of those blank ones. And if you really don't like those blank ones, you can count down here how many you've got. So that would be, this would be count number 9, and all we'd have to do is put over here, and it's a little bit of a pain, but we use the cells command, and we put right up. Oh, come on. Why didn't I copy it? Okay. Dot cells, and it's always 1, and I hope it was 9 comma 1 equal. Let's try that one. Okay, if you really wanted to do that. So I'm probably going to be lazy enough. So if I put Mario 2, everything goes to Mario 2, and then I can change the production capacity to something else, one of these other projects. And now let's try to really implement it. And so let's put the capex per kilogram per hour. You've got to be careful with how you measure capacity. Okay, and did I copy it into the right place? You know, I could waste your time with this alternate thing. I hope I did it right. And okay, let's just copy it down here. Okay, and we put, then it's 24. Okay, and I don't have a macro associated with this one, but I want to compare it. So we're gonna, again, when we do this index, I just did it with no F4s. Okay, so it wasn't that bad. I'm debating whether I should be turning this off, this video off, but so now let's copy this to our summary page. Okay, that didn't work. I hope it didn't. I didn't copy it correctly. Shit. Okay. One more time. Maybe this is a little bigger than it. All right. Enough of the stupid wasting time. But okay, so, and this is our overall one. So let's get our item in here and paste it. Okay, so we can put our base case, and then all the numbers will change. And then if I want to change this to another one, I'll get the number. Now I haven't linked these numbers into the model. Let me just perhaps do this one, and then I'll be finished with this. So once we have this database, we really kind of need an input page. And in the input page, now what I did is I changed all the currencies around. Okay, and we have the capital cost in USD per kilogram, and we get that capital cost now. Yes, it better be, and we really should be so careful whether you define this per day or per year or whatever you do. Okay, and then when I finally put it into the model, so we multiply this by the amount of kilograms per hour to get the total cost, and then we can take the total kilowatt hours from the efficiency ratio. Okay, and then and this efficiency ratio should have of course come from here. Now when I finish this whole model up, and where is my efficiency ratio? It comes from this applied one, and this applied one will all get changed to the kind of to the base case, and we'll put this at the top and everything else. Okay, so if we of course copy this, right click, copy it, and paste it up to this one. Okay, we could try to take, I wish I remembered who this AEC was, and this should have changed. Yes, it changed the electrical efficiency, and it changed the capital costs and all this. And then when I finally did this, Mario's in Australia, so I had to change the currency. So when you implement it in your model, you're going to walk through, and maybe I'll do this now so I can kind of finish off this video, and then I'll show you the end of it. Show you where you took these things from. We don't take the, we'll take them from the input sheet. And then when we get to this, so I start with the trucks, okay? And I'm going to adjust the lifetime of the trucks to make the lifetime of the trucks consistent, at least, with the lifetime of the electrolyzer. In fact, we have the electrolyzer 20 years, and we have to replace the trucks once. So we won't have this residual value problem, which is an important one, and which is a pain. Okay, and then once we start putting some things with currencies in, we can take the this is a little bit of bad form, isn't it? We can take the input 50, which is the exchange rate, and I think it would be better to leave the exchange rate just like we did here. So in this case, that you have 1.41 Australian dollars to one US dollar. So if you want to put the cost of the diesel truck, which will come now from the other database, which has all the truck costs in it, you'll go down to the cost of the diesel truck, and we'll have a benchmark. We'll use USD for the benchmark, and then we'll put all of our things in that, and then so we'll multiply that. I couldn't find the multiplication sign. I'm really losing it. Okay, we'll multiply that by the. Excuse me. We'll multiply that by this one. And we don't want to put it like that, do we? We just want to put it without a. It puts that horrible thing in. So maybe on this one. I used the wrong truck. One more time. It's okay. I'm telling myself. We take this one. No, we don't. We take this one, and we multiply it by the input one, and then it only shows it on the one. So we take this one, multiply it by our costs in USD, and I don't have the diesel truck in USD, which I'll put in there. Okay, enough. I'm going to pause the video for a little while. Okay, so now I've put all those things in. I've put all those things in, and I've added some options, and we can do some real analysis, I think. Okay, before I do the analysis, I'm going to just show you. If you had to set up a levelized cost analysis, or in this case, I don't know, where it depends on the number of trucks. I start, and we have to include the efficiency of the trucks and how efficient they were if they used diesel fuel. So up here, we have some kind of diesel efficiency. And now we can change this and see if you used a different amount of fuel in kind of the benchmark case. So I've put these different options here. Then we can evaluate at the end of the day what the overall cost, I don't know why I kind of chuckled there, what the overall cost is in terms of perhaps a equivalent cost. How much does this increase or decrease the cost of running the trucks? Okay, don't worry, that negative number that was on there just wasn't very real. Now, the next thing you can do is say, okay, well, let's look at the hydrogen trucks. And for the hydrogen trucks, unfortunately, I only had kind of three perspectives. Of course, you can just add as many as you want. Okay, and I don't know what you think about this, but you can, let's move this around. So we're also going to change the currencies. Okay. So if the hydrogen truck is more efficient, instead of less efficient. So, oops, oh, I'm wasting too much time on this crap. Sorry about that. Okay. Mike tells me, no, just do it in the stupid whatever cells, and he's probably right. Okay. If I would use this study, and then you get you in this case you use more kilograms for every kilometer you drive. If you use this one, it's even more, and this middle one is less. And when you do that kind of thing here, then this is going to affect the final cost per kilogram, which who gives a crap about. But really, I think the equivalent cost of diesel is the more interesting thing, and see if you can save money. Now, let's not pretend we're saving money, because as soon as we put the additional cost of converting the trucks, which seems to not be in there, or if we put the cost of the dispensers in and out, we get some different results. It's also the case that if you put some different, you can see, well, okay, in 2025 for a really large one, this is what the percent increase in cost would be, and this is what it would be now. And you can say, okay, well, what happens if we change the cost of electricity? How sensitive was it? I suppose that's what all those tornado diagrams were supposed to do. And we could definitely do that one, but I suggest first getting the data together. Okay, and then let's keep going down, and then then we put the differential cost of the trucks here, which is a very big one, and just about every single time I would put a true-false flag in here to take it in and out. Now that's an enormous amount compared to just about all the other costs. This additional truck cost, look at that amount compared to all the other costs. So if we're going to make this work, perhaps that's the real variable, and that's maybe the variable that should have been in the tornado diagram, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I've also made this so we can put it all, benchmark it all to different currencies. And the reason for me that's so important is when you put your databases together, you're gonna get the data perhaps in different currencies, just like we showed you. Now, continuing with our model, then the next thing we do is go to our electrolyzer. And again, since we have the amount of hydrogen usage in kilograms per year, we want to figure out how many trucks we have, and we want to figure out how many kilograms per year I can produce from a 20 kilogram per hour. We could put it in per day and all of that. That's what we need more than kilowatts right now, because that's how we're going to measure the costs of the trucks. And then in this case, I've got a pretty low capacity factor, so we could get more trucks in. And in fact, this is something I was really thinking about. Really, you could put this at the availability. Eventually, these things are going to be operating at full availability. Okay, and then okay, let's put them at something like 96% availability. So we can fit more trucks, get a higher capacity factor, and when we put a different capacity factor in, we have to cover different fixed costs. And so I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, and then we're evaluating what the effects on the levelized costs are now. So this is we start with how much total amount we could get from our capacity. Here's the availability and the total capacity, and this is per hour, and then we better multiply it by the hours in the year. If we've got an annual model, nothing that bad for me about this annual model. And then we compare that with demand for the trucks. We can't And then I put a minimum in. We can't have more. If we have too many trucks, we can't produce more than we have. We can't get more than we have, and then we have to limit. We'd have to limit the our usage and the amount of trucks that we could actually work this. And then I'm saying some complete crap right now, and I'm sorry about this. By the way, I haven't finished all this, so we could run this all in different currencies. Oops. Oh no. So let's put an equal sign and get this one, and then this one. Okay. So if we put it in a different currency, eventually all of those things should change. Of course, I haven't done all of those. And when we get the electricity cost, what I do is I say, okay, let's put and this is really bad, I should put the exchange rate here. Now, when I put the electricity cost in with a spinner box, again, this for me is so dangerous. I do this all the time now. What I would do is when you reset it, you want to remember what you had at the beginning. And did I reset this? No, that's what a hypocrite. I'm going to have to stop the video just for a second. And so what I always should do, or what you should do, and I didn't do, we put elect price. See if I can remember that. And then let's put a base price. And let's make that 50. And then we can always Shift Control F3. We can always reset the electricity price to the base price. So if we start messing around with these things, I have to get some words out. We can put them in our little reset box. Okay, so I'll put electricity price here, and we'll set that to the base price. And I should have probably called it electricity price. Hopefully I didn't have any other ones. So now let's make sure that when we change this, it changes back. I think it did. Okay, all right. And we've got one issue. All right, let's keep going. So we put our electricity costs. Now our electricity costs are heavily dependent on the electricity efficiency. Okay, and here I noticed that my friend Mario's scenario, his base case scenario, had an efficiency of 70, which was really bad compared to some of these other ones. So we can, again, perhaps copy these. Now, whenever I copied these, perhaps, where should I put this here? Okay. If we have a much more efficient electrolyzer, we can, and I'm looking at something like this. Here we're using much less, and let's finally put. I would put. Maybe you don't like all this junk all over the place up at the front. Maybe you think I'm too much of I make a mess of everything. Okay. But then we can say, okay, what happens if we use a different electrolyzer? It made a lot less difference than I thought. Okay. Huh. And we continue with all the other costs. Then once we get down to the compression and the storage, it's a little bit tricky here because your capacity on the dispenser is measured, I think it should be measured at least in kilograms per minute. How fast can you take and get that stuff out of that nozzle? Okay, and if you get it faster, I suppose I'm gonna not even copy the thing over here. Let's just do this, control and right bracket. So if you can get this stuff out of the knot much more quickly, then we could see what happens to our costs. Is this an important one or is it not an important one? And this is all driven by, okay, this is how many kilograms we can get out of the nozzle, but we need to compare that to how much we run per day per truck. And our trucks in this scenario use 5.9 kilograms per day. So for each truck, it would take us about 2 minutes. It would take us about 2 minutes to fill each truck per day, okay? But we have 75 trucks, and you notice what I did here. I just used max instead of sum, but this whole idea of having a sum column, I think, is a big deal. And let's remember, in this generic macro, it tells you, it gives you a big hint of what the sum column should be, and then I think we should use about 8 ones at the top. Okay, so I'm just reviewing. I always kind of do this. Excuse me for doing it. Okay, and then we keep this kind of nice little column, which is so helpful really to do. I'm repeating myself. I can't stand it. Okay, so once we have the number of trucks, then we start with, okay, well, how much, where did I put it now? Just 1 second. I'm looking for the here. We have 30. I didn't put it here. We want to fill everything in 30 minutes, and if we have 75 trucks, it would take us 225 minutes to fill all the trucks. Now, we don't want them standing in line and waiting all the time, so we can divide that by the 30 minutes to see how many dispensers we need, which is 7.51, and I rounded that up to 8. Okay, and then we multiply that by the cost of the dispenser and get all the pieces together. And finally, here's what I suggest now. You do things kind of over. This was how many kilometers each of the garbage trucks had to move. This was how many liters they needed per kilometer. Notice I put the kilometers on the top and the bottom. Then we get the liters per year. And then we put the cost in terms of liters. And then we have, this is how much we would spend on the trucks for diesel fuel. And you got to think that diesel fuel price consists of taxes. It consists of the dispenser costs. It consists of the oil price, the refinery cost. It consists kind of all those pieces. So you could say it's legitimate to compare this to the cost of hydrogen. By the way, electricity has a lot of taxes too, so don't think that you haven't included taxes necessarily. And then we can say, well, let's put our demand in terms of this one. I'm going to put a maximum. So we get a typical number. Now everything's level. That's why you can call it levelized cost. And then we can say, okay, well, if we produce this many kilograms, we can divide this and we can figure out, well, what's the break even, what's the equivalent cost. Now, that depends again on what kind of hydrogen truck you have, because if you are more efficient, this German study had a more efficient truck. I think this was a less efficient truck, and then you get a different answer. Oh God! Now the final thing is when we put our CapEx and our OpEx in, we can just put one of these true-false thingers, and we can just turn things on and off. So we can really try to study where the increased costs are coming from, which is obvious that the truck cost is enormous for this. Finally, if I had a little experiment where I wanted to turn off all the expenses, we don't really need to do that. Once we get all of the CapEx and the expenses here, what I use to get a simple NPV, I use a false. Up here, we don't want to take the NPV to here. We want to start the NPV when we assume the whole project starts. And in this case, I hope I have 20 years, okay? Perhaps in some cases I had a little bit less or more. Okay, and then we just get the NPV with the false, and I used a really low discount rate. Let's put a 5%, 6% discount rate here. How's that? Okay, then we get the NPV. After we get the NPV, we use exactly the same. We can use a payment, and that's just levelizing it. This is what the whole levelized cost does. It just levelizes it, and a payment just takes that, in this case, a 1, and it says how much, if we're going to recover our 1, how much do we have to recover in level terms every single year? And so I can just multiply this total NPV by this. Now, after you do that, you can put in these required revenues. I multiply it by a little flag, and we can assure ourselves here that the NPV of all the cash flow, and I put the cash flow here, I subtracted this time I took the revenues and subtracted all the cost, and that NPV gives you exactly a 0 number. And that's how you can get the one way out of many to get the levelized costs. Okay. Finally, I put back, and this is really bad, I should have put the units in here. Okay, this is the total cost of the diesel. And we can say, okay, we can compare this one, our required revenues, which were 5, to the cost of diesel, and we can say, okay, in this case, it's a bad scenario. We had to increase. We have an increase in our cost. I hope that that's the same thing. We can take this divided by that, minus 1. That gives you our increase in costs. And then we can put the total hydrogen in terms of kg, and we can get the total amount per kg. That's our final levelized cost. At the very end, we can say, okay, what's our diesel used in liters, and then we can get the equivalent cost of the diesel in per liter. Okay, and that would be equivalent to a very expensive item. So I'm going to give this file. This file is going to go on the website. I have a levelized cost in my energy analysis. I have levelized cost. And we're going to have to put it somewhere here, and I'm going to have to move it around and get it somewhere on the website, okay? And if I don't get it on there soon, and if you're really going to watch this movie, this little video, you can see it. So let's go back. Let's see if we would change and use this German study. We get a 214% increase. This is the one I'm really focusing. And maybe our diesel cost is a little higher, so we can reduce that. And then let's see what kind of truck we. Okay, I don't know what happened. Oh, God. Let's. I'm going to leave that in there. Let's see what kind of, if we can use a different kind of truck. Now, I'm terrified of this. Let's use the German study again. Then we're down to still 100% more. But it was a lot different than the 300%. You can see that these, now we can start to see what's really mattering. What really matters, excuse me. And then we can try to, I don't think I really have we can try to put a fast dispenser in, and it looked like our base case had a little bit better costs for that. And then finally, we can say, oh, what happens if we do a really nice, new, efficient one, electrolyzer, and we get that? And what happens if we put some solar in? Okay, and we're still, we're still a lot higher until we are able to get the truck cost down. If we can get the truck cost out of there, that's the big one. Okay, and that's that. And I finally got a stupid video done.